Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to yahawah, bahasham, yahawashi, bahasham, quadash. Double honors the elders and apostles, a great millstone who are teaching us truth and sincerity. And a shout out to Yakim that's out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. And a shout out to Yahuwah that are tuning in and listening to USA barak atham and Shalom. So anyhow, just like the disclaimer says, we're not affiliated with any of these other groups, but Amalek is out of the woodworks and now has, begun to make their moves, of course, because we have come to the realization that we're the real Israelites, and that if one of us are the real ones, then that means someone else must be the fake. So, and we call it out when we go and we prophesy on the streets, that these gutter rats, these Amalekites, are not the real Jews, that they are the ones that are oppressing the poor, and they're pretty much our captors. So we've been doing that for some time. Now then, getting on to the other things, of course, we know this whole Trump impeachment thing has been nothing more than distractions, and he's not the man in power anyways. He's just the clown that wears the suit. So, okay, they kicked out the clown, so fucking what, It doesn't mean, though, that World War III still ain't around the corner. Doesn't fucking mean, though, that they're still going to come down on us 12 tribes, but yet this would be a good reason to start the Civil War. And martial law and everything else, because, of course, you've got those Edomite extremists, those terrorist groups that'll come out. These Edomite terrorist groups, these red Hebrew Edomite terrorist groups. Since they always like to call us black extremists, I'll just call them red Hebrew terrorists, because that's who they are. Red Hebrew Edomite terrorists. Because they are the terrorists. They go in and they steal other people's oil, and then they sell it on the black market, which they've been doing through Turkey. And they've been doing the same, Turkey has also been stealing oil from Libya via these terrorist groups. So we know who the terrorists are, and we know that Gomer is really a bunch of fucking Amalekites and Edomites, So we know that these fucking Amalekites are out there. And so, like everything else, though, still trying to get to the next place. As you know, things didn't go the way I'd planned it. I'm going to have to get a co-signer, and hopefully that goes through, They said they'd co-sign, so, just got to wait a little bit longer to get the next place. And hopefully that's still available. Yeah, man, you know that Amalek manipulates the credit scores and all that. So we didn't make it quite 640 for the credit requirements, because they manipulate numbers and all that. That proves that we're the Israelites, because, of course, we know who's manipulating scores and all that. Even though, my wife, she had worked 23 years for the Olive Garden. So you would think, though, that because, we got cars and we paid them off and all that, that we'd show good credit for that. Well, just not enough. You see, it's just not enough. So you know that they're manipulating that, especially when you've been in the work field for 23 years. You got nothing to show for it here in Babylon. What the fuck do you got, man? It's just a goddamn 2-bedroom apartment for $825 a month, and it's in a bad neighborhood anyways. But you see how hard it is to get stuff? That's because we know where they're oppressed, That's just to get a place in the ghetto, okay? In the slums. We just want, to survive long enough, because we know that, man, this place was never fit for us. This land of opportunity, all that bullshit that we were fed. And that's what it's been, nothing but fucking bullshit. And we see right through it. So we know Amalek's on the move. They're making their moves, faking the news like they've always done with Syria, but now they're just using it against us. And they still want to fake the news, that Iran, Hezbollah, building up their military, and that Iran attacked Iraq, all the bullshit. Oh, and supposedly there was a shooting today in Moscow, so there's another shooting there. So another false flag terror attack, because they're always faking the news. We know that this whole thing is nothing more than a fucking dog and pony show. We know what the bread and circuses are, and we see it for what it is. So, yeah, end up having to have a co-signer. So, gotta wait on the person that's co-signing. Like everything else, though. My faith and hope was never in this fucking place. I'm just trying to do what I can to still get the word out, even though I don't have a steady place as of yet. So hopefully that'll change within the next week or so. You know, in the meantime, I'm still going to go out and teach. I'm still going to do what I can, even though I'm just staying on someone's sofa, you know. So anyhow, I'm going to take a look at some other things going on and hopefully come back with some scriptures. So just following up on Gomer and all his bands in Syria, Turkish occupation transports hundreds of terrorists and their families to the city of Ras Al Ain and assaults with missiles on civilians in the town of Abu Rasin and Hasaka countryside. So you can see a picture there. The Turkish occupation forces have brought dozens of terrorists and their families to the city of Ras Al Ain as part of their plans to replace them with the people of the region and bring out a demographic change that serves its aggressive agendas in Syria. So, you know, when they're talking about regime change or through the democracies, that's what America's been talking about. A Syrian Arab news agency correspondent Al-Hasaka, citing local sources, said that more than 300 Turkish occupation mercenaries entered today on buses with their children to Ras Al Ain. The sources indicated that the terrorists and their families were housed in houses that the Turkish aggression forces had abandoned and seized in the city of Ras Al Ain. In the northern countryside of Hasaka, a Syrian Arab news agency reporter stated that the Turkish occupation forces assaulted with missiles the area around the town of Abu Rasin, and the Syrian Arab Army units responded with appropriate weapons to the sources of the aggression. In a related context, the reporter pointed out that the Turkish occupation forces have reinforcements to its illegal military base between the city of Ras Al Ain with the village of Alaq and its vicinity, in parallel with the introduction of a number of soldiers and tanks to the countryside of Bredig, Abu Rasan, north of Hasaka. Since the beginning of its aggression on the Syrian lands on the 9th of last October, the occupation forces have brought hundreds of families of terrorists into the town of Ras Al Ain and inhabited them in the homes of the families who were displaced from the city. So pretty much, man, looting going on, you know, because, you know, we know that Gomer and all his bands are the terrorists, you know. It's just that they're now just sort of doing things on their own. But they still work covertly with the United States. All this idea that, okay, well, Gomer's its own thing. Nah, man, it's still all part of Esau Amalek.
This is Dabu7, an earthquake update. Here late last night, we had reports coming in of a decent quake striking in the Indonesia, Philippines region. That quake, the biggest one, registering a 6.9, and it was centered in the Philippines. You can see that there is a lot of swarming ongoing here behind this quake. A lot in this region. All in the 4 to 5 range after that big one. And there were buildings that were seen swaying back and forth, swimming pools sloshing back and forth the water, a lot of stuff falling off the sides of different buildings from this big quake that struck here. And they're still dealing with the effects. So that big quake and swarm strikes in the Philippines. And then when we go over here and we take a look at the United States, what I've noticed is that in Oklahoma, the swarming has seen an uptick, kind of spread out, and we just hit a 3.8, which is a decent quake. When you start to get to this level, in the past, when they got up into 4 or 5 range, they would literally stop the fracking in the region for some time over concerns for what was happening in the area. And here we are, just outside of Old Faithful Geyser. This is West Yellowstone, the Yellowstone region. We have got a 3.5. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to see real quick how shallow that was. 15.9, decently shallow compared to these others that are hundreds of kilometers deep. So we have some activity in Yellowstone, in Oklahoma, and a massive quake rocking the Philippines, and kind of some widespread quake activity all across the globe here today. I will update if we see any more action. I'm going to leave a link below. Make sure to bookmark it so you can keep up to speed with these quakes as they're happening. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter for breaking news as well. This has been Dabu7 with an earthquake update.
The commandments. That's why they're not concerned with the conscious community, or nobody's concerned with the conscious community. All the focus from Hollywood mocking us on down to, they're focused on the Israelites. They know that us keeping the commandments is way bigger. It's a way bigger threat than walking up in some goddamn kosher deli and shooting 3 people. Nobody that's a trained Israelite that has even a little bit of discipline would do something so stupid. And we certainly don't teach that. The Bible says they will be destroyed with the spirit of our mouth, and we're doing that. That's why they're getting desperate. And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So that's when the war is going to take place. When the Most High God sends his son to come down, that's where the war is going to take place. Our job is not to go out and accumulate weapons and try to go shoot people and all that. Come on, who does that? No. And that's not what we teach. And I'm telling y'all, they know that that's not what we teach. But they're stitching together a narrative to try to paint the movement in a bad light, because the third step of Project Megiddo is just outright come against us. But they need the people to support them. They need the everyday people to support them coming against us the way that they're planning on doing it, because they're going to do it swift and convincingly. Some brothers are going to be locked up. Some brothers is going to lose their lives. They're going to do that. But they need the people to support it first. So they're stitching together a narrative. Y'all better pay attention. That's why, and this is where I'm going to end it. That's why, when I was coming up, back in the days, under the elders, and I was raised under the original elders of One West. I was under the original elders, and I thank the Most High every day for that. When I was and you stand on the platform, and you be like, we're going to destroy America, your ass got taken off the platform immediately. Immediately. If there was a general around, or one of the elders around, you were removed from the platform immediately. Why? Because we're not going to do nothing. And you don't need to be out here in the streets saying that, because they can use that against you. So I'm imploring all you brothers that have camps that's in the street speaking, especially you senior ranking brothers. I'm imploring y'all brothers this, as an elder in Israel that's been around for almost 30 years, I'm imploring you, watch your men and listen to when they're speaking. Don't be open and lost in space. Listen to what they're saying when they're speaking. We're not going to destroy America. God is going to destroy our enemies, period. And when they're teaching, they need to say, according to the Bible. You got to say that. Because if you don't say that, they're going to try to use your words against you. This is not personal. It's not personal. This is biblical.
Reporting that these 2 suspects are linked to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. We have evidence that both suspects expressed interest in this group, but we have not definitively established any formal links to that organization or to any other group. There has been considerable reporting that these 2 suspects are linked to the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. We have evidence that both suspects expressed interest in this group, but we have not definitively established any formal links to that organization or to any other group. I can
FBI ran a counterintelligence program named COINTELPRO that was initiated by J. Edgar Hoover. COINTELPRO mainly targeted civil rights leaders such as Martin Luther King, and it's commonly understood that this was an abuse of its surveillance power in a manner to suppress a peaceful movement. So I would like to ask Mr. Chair unanimous consent to enter this report into the record. which is black identity extremists likely motivated to target law enforcement officers. I believe earlier you said you were not familiar with the report. Is that correct?
Well, I haven't read it. I know some of the alleged targeting of officers by
Okay, so I
certain
would
groups.
like to know, and I'll ask you about that in a minute. So you are somewhat familiar with it. Who had the power in your department to order a report like this?
I'm not sure how that report got ordered. I don't believe I explicitly approved it or directed it.
Okay, so you haven't necessarily read the report, but you are familiar with the term black identity extremists?
Well, I think so, yes.
So can you tell me what that term means to you? Do you believe that there is a movement of African Americans that identify themselves as black identity extremists, and what does that movement do?
Well, it'd be interesting to see the conclusions of that report. But I'm aware that there are groups that do have an extraordinary commitment to their racial identity, and some have transformed themselves even into violent activists.
Are you aware of white organizations that do this as well? Given that white supremacy is well-documented, well-researched movements such as the neo-Nazis, the Ku Klux Klan, etc., are they white identity extremists?
I didn't follow that question, please, again.
Is there a term or a report on white identity extremists? You mentioned you were familiar with black people who identify with their racial identity.
Yes, but it's not coming to me at this moment.
Not coming to you?
It's
Certainly a group such as the Ku Klux Klan.
yes, and then the skinhead movements, but there's a racial identity white movements that have been identified for sure.
So has the FBI done a report on white identity extremists that are likely motivated to target law enforcement officers? Is there such
I'm not
a
aware
report?
of that.
Okay. Are you aware of a group called the Sovereign Citizens?
I've heard that group, yes.
And I believe that the Sovereign Citizens is primarily a white organization that absolutely has targeted police officers and killed police officers. You're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of all their crimes, but I know they're a group that's known to have violent tendencies.
Could you name an African-American organization that have committed violent acts against police officers? Could you name one today? In this report, they name organizations from 30, 40 years ago, but can you name of one today that has targeted police officers in a violent manner?
I believe I could, but I would want to be to confirm that and submit it to you in writing. But I believe we had, within the last year or so, 4 police officers killed by a group that some have described as extremists.
So what has happened is that there have been a couple of instances in which African Americans did kill police officers who were not associated with a black organization. And so one, for example, in Baton Rouge was associated with Sovereign Citizens, which is primarily a white group. So you should know that there's a lot of concern in the community, especially from organizations such as Black Lives Matter. By the way, would you consider Black Lives Matter a black identity extremist group?
I'm not able to comment on that. I have not so declared it.
So you should know that a lot of activists around the country are very concerned that we're getting ready to repeat a very sad chapter of our history, where people who are rightfully protesting what they consider to be an injustice in their community, which is their relationship with police officers, are now being targeted and labeled as extremists and are going through periods of surveillance and harassment. And so I would like to know, what is your department going to do to protect the rights of average citizens to protest if they have a concern about police officers?
This department will not unlawfully target people.
So if that's the case, then I would ask that you review this report, Black Identity Extremists Likely Motivated to Target Law Enforcement Officers, because I personally don't believe that any such organizations exist.
Some updated information to what's going on in New Orleans. When this information first broke and I put the story out, we were talking about a cyber attack happening in New Orleans. At the time, they were telling officers, firefighters alike, to shut off their computers and even cell phones because of this situation. We're now finding out they have declared a state of emergency because of this. They're saying that ransomware is involved. Before, ransomware wasn't even mentioned. It was just a cyber attack. Now they're saying that the NOLA.gov is still down as of today because of this ransomware attack. The city found no sign that any passwords were compromised or any data lost. But I'm here to tell you that they can flash copy all this stuff, and they can't even tell. They're saying that public safety services are still up and running, but right now they're in this situation where they're being threatened to where if they don't pay up, this is going to continue. As I talked about on the live stream last night, this feels like the same group that has been behind the almost exact same type of attacks that have hit in Baltimore and in Florida, in many different cities. And that was ongoing for some time in those cities as well. They don't state here exactly what they're asking for, but in those other cities they were asking for Bitcoin, and in many ways that can be tracked back to the people in the wallets. I'll leave a link. I'll update if we get more information. Follow me on Twitter for breaking news, and follow me on DLive for exclusive live streams that you're only going to find over there, streaming 3 other nights a week versus over here on YouTube. So make sure to check us out over on DLive. Links below.
As we know, the United States has carried out a continuing military occupation inside of Syria, in which Donald Trump announced that we are there for the oil, which is probably about the most honest thing a U.S. politician has ever said. They straight out directly said that they were there to capture the oil reserves inside the country with no pretext, no weapons of mass destruction, no getting rid of dictatorship, no defending the Kurds, no excuse whatsoever. Just straight up. Invade the country, take the oil. And it's nice that, Donald Trump just completely tore the face off of imperialism, which is strange because the mainstream media just seems to, not point that out. Just say, oh, Trump is going back into Syria to get the oil. Any comment on what he just said as being, basically imperialism? Oh, no, we don't really have anything to say about that. Well, according to the Deir ez-Zor blog, the area in the country which holds that kind of oil, the Syria's largest oil fields, the government of Deir ez-Zor, the Deir ez-Zor 24 blog, it's a news blog, reported on November 14th that Connections in Deir ez-Zor, a team of Aramco's experts had already visited and inspected the Al Omar oil fields in the southeastern area of Deir ez-Zor. Well, if you're familiar with who Aramco is, it's one of the Saudi oil companies. In fact, this was one of the ones that was attacked not too long ago by Yemeni forces when they piloted a bunch of drones into the oil facility and knocked down 50% of Saudi Arabia's oil producing capacity, which sent a great deal of chaos into the oil market and was a massive, massive embarrassment for the Saudi government, who previously claimed that such attacks could not be carried out from Yemen, that they were safe from any kind of thing happening. So naturally, in order to save face, you blame Iran in this situation. But here's a little bit more according to the blog. The investment will be done through contracts that will be signed by Aramco and the U.S. government, whose forces control the majority of the oil and gas fields in northeastern Syria. Essentially, Saudi Arabia signed a deal with the U.S. government to steal Syrian oil. Maybe something looks weird here, like this is straight up theft, and nobody in the mainstream media seems to be able to report this. Kind of not even happening. In fact, U.S. actions inside of Syria have just gone completely unreported for the last little while. It's amazing that this can happen. The United States essentially the U.S. military is essentially being used as a mercenary force for Saudi oil companies. As God knows, the Saudi military is bogged down right now in Yemen in a war that they can't win. So naturally, of course, people who signed up to the U.S. military to defend the country, assuming they actually really believe that, you get to go to Syria and hold the oil fields for Saudi Arabia. I hope you feel that's worth risking your life for. Now, the Pentagon announced that it's going to keep about 500 troops in eastern Syria to guard oil fields in the northern Al-Hasaka and southeastern Nizor. And the U.S. military presence is illegal under international law. It is not welcomed by the people. It is not welcomed by the Syrian government, and in fact goes completely against international law. But that aspect of it is, of course, being completely overlooked. The United States is going to do whatever it is that it wants. If Aramco does indeed move in to invest in Syria's oil field through illegal contracts in the U.S., without the consent of Damascus, Saudi Arabia could see itself in a serious crisis with Syria and its allies, first of all, Iran and Hezbollah. Now, if they did decide to start pumping, Syrian oil, without the permission of the Syrian country, you could probably expect them to maybe their oil refineries to be hit with a few missiles in the coming weeks as they attempt to build pumping stations and whatnot throughout the country, which wouldn't be a bad thing to do, but you have to be careful what you say on YouTube. You can't threaten or you can't support acts of violence unless you're an Israeli settler uploading a video of Palestinians being forced off their land, laughing at them, calling them to be killed, in which case YouTube is actually just fine with videos like that. Now, last September, the Iranian-backed Houthis, as I said, in Yemen did attack the oil production facility inside of Saudi Arabia and caused about a 50% decrease in their productive capacity, which, according to several sources I saw, is right about back to where it was before all the damage was done. But it's very interesting to note this, is that this is really being done without the veneer of anything anymore. Usually, you get false flag attack like the USS Cole that's used as justification to do this or to do that, or championing freedom or weapons of mass destruction to cover for this. But it's not even being done at this point. They're just outright doing it. And it's nice that the face has finally come off imperialism, and they're not even pretending this has some loftier goal. And still people seem to be relatively okay with it. I mean, those of us in our circle certainly denounce this, but the regular American person still doesn't seem to care. And God knows that the people who support Trump are supporting this, and they don't even know what's going on. They don't even understand. And they're still doing it. But this does, again, show the great connection between Saudi Arabia and the United States, that this is much more than Bush family money being invested from Saudi Arabia. And that was one of the big criticisms that was made of the Bush family, was their connections to the Saudi royal family. And it goes much more than that. It goes much deeper than merely the Bush family. There's a very long-standing trade and investment connections, etc., between the United States and Saudi Arabia. And this here is a perfect example of that.
Thank you for keeping track of Russia lurking in the waters right off the coast of America. They were going in and out of the zone, which was international waters, and then I guess they were regarding this as non-international waters, I guess right on the line. And they're saying that this thing was behaving unsafe. Now, we've witnessed Russia creep up down near the Gulf on both coastlines up around Alaska, and we've seen them several times with this exact same vessel off the East Coast just spying. I mean, it is a known spying vessel. They basically keep it sitting out here all the time or switch it out with another. They're constantly watching what's going on and listening to what's going on. Whether they're able to crack any codes or whatnot, they seem to always be lurking out there. And this time, the U.S. military and the Coast Guard concerned because they're saying, okay, we see you out there lurking all the time, but now all of a sudden, it's deciding to operate with no running lights in terms of low visibility weather, and it's not responding to hails from commercial ships. That is a standard procedure that's used to prevent any accident from happening out in this area. And now all of a sudden, Russia is just not doing it. Right off our coast, This is what they're doing. So I wanted to make note of it. If we see any more, I'll update you guys. Follow me on Twitter for breaking news, and follow me on DLive for exclusive live streams and videos you're only going to find over there. Links below.
So, while we're on the subject of Esau, Amalek, I may as well just go ahead and read this, because this is coming out, and it's showing forth. That's why Esau, Amalek, has to create fake news, just to, try to bring the hammer down on us. But at the same time, Amalek has been exposed, and we've been exposing them. So, either way, Esau, Edom is falling apart. And Amalek is hated among the Edomites, man. Whenever you get into Edomite supremacist groups, man, they fucking hate them kikes, which kike is a short word for Amalekite. They know that these words condemn them, and you get into scriptures like this, so we know that this is hurting Esau. We know he's a wounded animal, and he's making his attacks now. He's coming out of the woodwork, so we're just like, bring it on, devil, you fucking piece of shit. We know you're a piece of shit, so we know you're not the real Jews, and so fucking what? Fuck you. We won't take your mark. We refuse. So go ahead and bring it on, devil. You're nothing. I have loved you, saith the Most High. Yet where you say, where hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Most High. Yet I love Jacob. I love verses like this in Malachi. Just that alone. But verse 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Not too long of a future prophecy, because that's talking about America. America's going to be nothing but fucking wasteland. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we return and build the desolate places. And they did come back after the 1,000 years and did rebuild those places. He did rebuild Rome. They will build, but I will throw down. Again, that's talking about when the Most High sends yahawashi to destroy New Rome, along with America. And they should call them the border of wickedness. That's another name for America. And the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Talk about you red Hebrew Edomites. You fucking Edomite extremists. And your eyes shall see, and you shall say, the Most High will be magnified from the border of Yashalah. A son honoreth his father, a servant his master. If I then be a father, where is mine honor? And if I be a master, where is my fear? Saith the Most High of hosts unto you, O priest that despise my name, and you say, wherein thou hast despised thy name. That's all you that want to fucking join Esau and say, oh, well, not all Edomites are going to be destroyed. Yes, they will be. And you're going to be destroyed right along with them for being a sympathizer. Because we know you goddamn devils are along our groups. We know that you're pretending to be an Israelite. And that, you're just reporting to Esau, Amalek. We know who you are. You think you're watching us? We're watching you, you son of a bitch. And guess what? This word has cut you. You're cut, and you're going to serve slavery in one way or another. So to all those that are sympathizing, prepare to meet your doom, because all the words in this book will come true. For that, I want to say, barak the yahawah, barak the yahawashi, bahasham quadash, wa abababal, barak atham, Jehovah elect, shalom.
Right, this devil was speaking to our Lord like that, man. Thinking that he had power to put Yahawashi to death. Go ahead. And have power to release thee. Yahawashi answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Right? So it's the same thing with us. This devil can't do nothing without the green light of the Lord, man. Alright? The power is with Yahawah Bahasham, not with this devil, man. That's right. Alright, this dude is just a tool, man. Go ahead. It says, Therefore, he that delivered me unto thee have the greater sin. Right, our people, man. Our whack-ass people. This is up to Mac. What you got right there? I got Psalms 34. Oh, okay. This is Psalms chapter 34, verse 17. It says, "The righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles." Right. The righteous cry, man. How we cry? Through our prayers, man. Us out here is a form of us crying, man. Go ahead. "The Lord is nigh unto them that are of a broken heart, and saveth such as be of a contrite spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken." That's all about Yahawashi. That's it? Yeah, I keep on going. It says, "Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. The Lord redeemeth the souls of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate." There you go, man. So it's all about trusting in the Lord, man. Like I'm gonna keep saying, it ain't time for us to be afraid, man. Right. It's time for this devil to be afraid, man.
That's right.
We're doing the right thing, man. That's right, bro. Ain't got shit to be afraid of, man.
That's right, bro.
Yeah, man. That's right.
We've been scared 500, you know?
Yeah, man. We've been getting our ass whooped.
Motherfucking man.
Yeah, man.
You go to work and then you have to act like you have to do certain things so you don't get fired and shit and all these different things. Fuck that. But you do have to do that so you can continue to provide.
Yeah.
Right.
In the back of your mind, you like, shit, watch, motherfucker. Watch.
Yeah.
Watch when the Lord lift us up. That's it,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Yeah.
That's another part of the movie, man. Certain brothers gonna get power, man.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
Lord gonna lift up a standard, man. You know? The Lord gonna do a lot of things, man, these last days, man. We talking about the Lord. The Lord split the sea, man. Come on, man. Nobody was expecting that, man.
Yeah, we ain't seen Mosai really show his power
Yeah,
like
man.
that. Mosai still got it hid. You know, you can see it spiritually, really, but it's gonna be everybody gonna be able to see it.
Yeah, man. The Lord
It's gonna be, you know, miracles.
We're gonna do mighty things out here, man. We can't really even think about all that, man. Let it happen how it happens. Go ahead. Wisdom of Solomon 3 and 4. "But though they be punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality. Right. And having been a little chastised, they shall be greatly rewarded. For the Most High proved them and found them worthy for himself. As gold in the furnace hath he tried them, and received them as a burnt offering." And that's what it's all going to be, a trial, man.
Right.
The last trial of our faith, man.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's what we got to focus on, passing. Keeping the faith. That's right. Go ahead, bro.
Hey, bro, I just consider, if I may, bro, I consider that Yahawashi got tortured.
Yeah, man.
I just considered that right now. He was tortured.
Yeah, he was tortured. He was embarrassed, smacked, spit on. Hey, and the servant ain't greater than his master, man. So you gotta expect the same thing. Motherfuckers that whoop your ass, spit on you, call you all type of shit, lie on you. It's gonna happen, man. But it's cool, man. This is what it takes to get to the other side. I'm with it. I'm just trying to get to the other side, man. Fuck this place, man.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, but fuck fear, man. Fear the our way outside, man. Go ahead, go to that. You got more? Go ahead. No, it's cool. I go through. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Cause we ain't dealing with that much time no more. Yeah, I got it.
Chapter 7, verse 8. Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 9. "If this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance..."
Go up, go up.
Yep. Second Ezra chapter 7, verse...
Danger set before it?
Yep. This is Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 7. It says, 7 and 6, it says, there is also another thing. A city is building and set upon a broad field.
Y'all brothers know what that city that the scriptures is referring to? That's built it? Yeah, the kingdom, bro. Yep.
Right out. It says there is also another thing. A city is building and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The interest thereof.
Right, the scriptures say that dang, how's it go, man? The pledges of the Lord's right hand.
Yeah, evermore.
Evermore. Yep. So full of all good things.
Yep.
Go ahead.
It says the entrance thereof is narrow and is set in a dangerous place to fall.
That's that straight gate, man. Y'all brothers know what the word straight means?
Narrow is straight gate.
Yep, but it also means position of difficulty. That's why this walk is such a difficult walk.
Yeah.
But
on either side is water and fire.
right, yeah. But the scriptures say through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom, man.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a bumpy ride, but like what do I always say? We on our roller coaster. We going to up and the downs. Fuck it.
That's what I pray over.
Yeah. What's your question, Doc?
It's a serious one. How do you know? I mean, it's been bothering me, man. How do you know if you really have faith? You know, sometimes people go through the motions and stuff like that. Because I fear, you know what I'm saying? I have fear. You know, I'm not doing the right thing. But I just want to know, how do you know when you have faith?
Bro, I think you overthinking it, Doc. Look where you at, bro. You got faith, bro. You believe in the Lord, right? There you go.
My works, Doc. My works.
Yeah, man.
There you go. Yep, you standing right there. Remember the scripture say that if you have faith that of a mustard seed, and then the mustard seed becomes one of the, it's the smallest seed, but then it becomes one of the most biggest trees. So it starts off small and it graduates. So you just standing right there, you're a witness of standing right there in itself that you have a sense of faith.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, you have faith, bro. Don't question that. Don't question your faith now, man.
You know. The beginning stages, you have all type of crazy ass, weird ass thoughts. But then you have the brethren that's been around a little longer, the apostles, great. Starting with the apostles, they show you, look, nah, you know, you overthinking this, over that, whatever. Yeah. You know? But it says, as if it were a fire on the right hand and on the left a deep water. And one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once.
I mean, you gotta work out your own salvation. Everybody has to do their own thing.
Right.
Everybody has their own journey, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It says, if this city now were given unto a man for an inheritance,
Right, we join heirs, right? Go ahead.
if he never shall pass the danger set before it.
Right, if you never go into the straight gate, that position of difficulty, all the hell that we got to go through, and what's to come, all right, to get to that beautiful city. Go ahead.
How shall he receive this inheritance?
Right, you're not. You're not going to receive it. So we have to. It's a must that we go through these things to get to the other side, man. And like I said, if that's what it is, that's what it is, man. Just like yahawashi. Give me 1 Peter's the first chapter, like verse 11. 1 Peter, first chapter, verse 11. Around there, you know, where it speaks about the sufferings of yahawashi. You know, because this is what yahawashi understood. He understood that he had to go through what he went through just to receive that glory. 1 Peter, the first chapter. 11.
First Peter 1 and 11. Search what manner of time the spirit of a Mashiach which was in them did signify when it testified beforehand the suffering of a Mashiach and the glory that should follow.
Right, the sufferings of yahawashi and the glory that shall follow. Man, read it again.
Search what manner of time the spirit of a Mashiach which was in them did signify when it testified beforehand the sufferings of a Mashiach and the glory that should follow.
Right, so right now is our time to suffer, man. But the glory is going to follow, man. Just like the scriptures tell you in Romans the 8th chapter, the sufferings are not going to be worthy to be compared to the glory, man, that the Lord's going to bless us with, man.
Right.
But this is what this is the only path.
Right.
We gotta enter through the danger set before it.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, Paul said it, through much tribulation shall you enter into the kingdom of heaven, you know?
Right. Hey, in a way we are killed because we read Colossians the 3rd chapter, it says we're dead to this world.
Yeah, we are.
You know what I'm saying? It says when yahawashi appear, then shall we appear with him also in glory. Because really, according to this world, we're not in the midst of, according to this world, we have no life. You know what I'm saying? We're not out, we don't do what the average person does in this world. So to this world, we're considered dead. We have no life here. But our life is hid in yahawashi. It's hid in yahawashi. So that's why it says when the Lord appears, we're going to appear with him. Lord willing, we be those men. It says the elect is going to appear with yahawashi in glory.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
What's the prophecy saying? Revelation 21. It says, "Then I seen that great city, Jerusalem, come down from heaven." We're going to come down. We're going to be with the Lord Yahawashi, man. And from that point forth, we will Yahawashi forever. It says they lived and reigned with Yahawashi 1,000 years. You know? That's right. We're going to have the whole nation in captivity. That's right. All you nations, every single nation there is going in captivity under the Israelites.
Right.
All right? And you're going to be in the captivity for 1,000 years. That's right. 1,000-year period. It's going to be a long, slow one.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to have 100 blinks a day.
And after the 1,000 years is up, we're going to let you loose, go back into your land according to the prophecy. And we're going to grab Esau ass up and we're going to exterminate him. Right! It's going to be a big bonfire, and it's going to be smelling like Edomites all over the planet Earth.
Right.
Do they really believe that? I don't think they believe
No, they don't believe that.
They don't believe it.
You know why they don't believe? Because down the 12th chapter say, many should be purified and made white, and the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand. They're not going to understand. It ain't even meant for them to really understand. They need to be told.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So you Edomites, you white people, y'all going into slavery.
That's it. That's right. That's right. All my slaves, they're only going to be able to blink 100 times a day. That's suppression for your ass. Don't use them all up.
Your eyeball dry in the mouth.
Hey, you know how to deal with that. We're going to put hell on these motherfuckers, man.
Hey, you know how to fly on, them flies on feed the children. They gonna be all over.
Shit.
Damn. Send a
fly on the eyeball.
Get some bears after your eyes if you go over that 100 blink.
You know, blink every fucking minute, every other fucking hour.
Go ahead.
Scripture.
Verse 17, 15?
This is I'll start at 15. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 14. It says, "For not as with other nations whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish till they be come to the fullness of their sins, so dealeth he with us, least that being come to the height of sin, afterward he should take vengeance of us, and therefore he never withdraweth his mercy from us. And though he punish with adversity, yet doth he never forsake his people."
Right, although the Lord punished us, we tell you that in Baruch. You know that the Lord, he didn't put us through this captivity to destroy us, man. It was just a punishment, man. Although it feels like forever, it was just a punishment, man. Go ahead.
It
To
says,
get to the point, I'm not sure. Go ahead.
"But let this that we have spoken be for a warning unto us. And now will we come to the declaring of the matter in few words. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and of well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh."
Right, so this devil was trying to have this aged man, this wise man, eat swine's flesh. It was fine swine's flesh in that time, but in this time it's going to be that chip. Go ahead.
It says, "But choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and came of his own accord to the torment."
Right. Shit. Point it up.
19.
What?
Read it again. I'll read it again. It says, "But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and came of his own accord to the torment."
Right. It was like shit. He rather keep going.
It says,
I'm not sure that's the beginning, but whatever. Keep going.
"As it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted, but they that had the charge of the wicked beast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside, but sought him to bring flesh of his own provision. It says, such as was lawful for him to use and make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, that in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. But he began to consider discreetly, and as became his age, and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by the Most High. Therefore he answered accordingly, and willed them straight ways to send him to the grave. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10,
that means he was 90 years old, you know? I'm not sure. What verse did you leave off?
Oh, I'm at verse 24.
All right.
Going to 25.
But this is another account, you know, of a courageous man, you know, not fearing the Most High, but the fear of man, man.
Right.
You know, willing to die, you know, for the law of the Lord, man.
That's right.
I got a quick precept for you.
Yep. This is Sirach 23 and 27. And they that remain shall know that there is nothing better than the fear of the Lord, and that there is nothing sweeter than to take heed unto the commandment of the Lord.
Right, so we're fearing the Most High rather than men, you know? Because this man's going to explain to you, man. Keep going.
It says,
it's too loud out here today, goddamn, man.
It says, we're now gone to a strange religion, and so they, through my hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to my old age.
Right, because they wanted him to act as if he was going to eat it and all this other stuff. You know, he's not willing to stay in his name. He ain't willing to be a sellout. You know, he wanted to be a great example unto you know, his people. Go ahead.
And make it an abominable, for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
Right, here's the point, man. Though for a present time I should be delivered. Read again.
For the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
Right, if you yield to what Esau desires, oh, take this chip, you know, or whatever it may be, deny Yahawah, whatever it may be. Go ahead.
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead.
Woo! Hey, read that again, bro.
It says, yet should I not escape. The whole thing. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead.
Right, so we following the Lord, man. You can't escape him. Whether you alive or dead, you ain't gonna be able to escape, you know, yahawah outside, man. You know, so fuck fearing man. Go ahead. Keep going. Yeah, I'm sure it's more.
It says, verse 27, wherefore now, manfully changing this life, I will show myself such and one as my age require, and leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws.
All right, so you got to be willing to, you know, die for this thing, man. Fuck it, you know. It's second Maccabees, 6th chapter. It's just one example. Go ahead.
It says, and leaving a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment. That they that led him, changing the good will, they bear him a little before into hatred, because The foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought, from a desperate mind. But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, It is manifest unto the Lord that have the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten, but in soul am well content to the suffering these things, because I fear him.
Alright, that's the mindset you gotta have, man. Don't worry about it, bro. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, bro.
It says,
it's a beautiful example right here that we have, man. One of many, man.
But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said,
with stripes, meaning they beat him, man.
Yeah.
You know? Remember, this man is 90. He ain't got the body of you know, a 20-year-old, man, a 30-year-old, man. You know, but he said he was suffering that in the flesh, but in the spirit he was well content.
Yeah,
because he feared the Most High, man. You know? Go ahead.
It is manifest unto the Lord that have the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pain in body by being beaten, but in soul am well content to the suffering these things, because I fear him.
Yeah, man, yeah.
And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorable of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all of his nation.
Woo! Man, that's a great example that we have.
All his nation.
Okay. That's a great example that we have. Go ahead, all right.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable man in the furnace of adversity.
Alright, so gold is tried in the fire, man. You know, we're being tried, and we're going to be tried even more in these coming days, man. Gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity, man. So we're trying to be acceptable, you know, to the Lord, man. We want to be accepted, man. We want the Lord's approval, man. So we got to go through this fire, man. Yeah, it sucks at times.